Et Shalom Akim. First, foremost, give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Rachak with us. Double honors under the elders Apostle Green Millstone, the elders Green Millstone, and of course, peace and blessings under the hopeful elect. Let's see our servants like Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, serving in truth and sincerity. Yes, on the brother Chayaba from GMS Plaintails Camp. Come back with another lesson of the Spirit. Yes, this lesson be based off of Luke chapter 6 and we can start at verse 20. And he lifted up his eyes on his disciples and said, "Blessed be ye poor, for yours is the kingdom of the Most High." Of course, well, we know this red letter, this Yahushua speaking unto his disciples. It says, Luke chapter 6 and 20, and he lifted up his eyes on his disciples and said, "Blessed be ye poor, for yours is the kingdom of the Most High. Blessed are ye that hunger now, for ye shall be filled. Blessed are ye that weep now, for ye shall laugh." Ultimately, that's us. It says, "Blessed are ye when men shall hate you, and shall," like it says, "and when they shall sever you from their company, and shall reproach you, and cast out your name as evil for the Son of Man's sake." Yeah, exactly. And ultimately, that's us. We're hungering now, meaning, obviously, we understand that this isn't our rest. So we're not giving it our all towards Babylon the Great, towards this society, towards this kingdom, towards Esau's kingdom. Ultimately, it says, blessed are ye that hunger now, for ye shall be filled. Blessed are ye that weep now, for ye shall laugh. Exactly. So ultimately, we're hungering now, and we're weeping now. Of course, about serving Yahweh Bashim Yahushai and doing as well, as the scriptures say, it's better to be in the house of mourning than the house of feasting. Ultimately, so us in the truth, we're in the house of mourning, waiting for, ultimately Yahweh Bashim Yahushai to make his move, and ultimately, for Yahushua to come back to deliver us from this wicked kingdom. So ultimately, we're hungering now, understanding that this isn't our rest. This isn't an all be all. This isn't a place where we're seeking, to become wealthy, to become rich. No, ultimately, again, we understand that this isn't our rest. So it says, "And when they shall sever you from their," so verse 22. Blessed are ye, it says, "Blessed are ye when men shall hate you, and when they shall separate you from their company, and shall reproach you, and cast out your name as evil for the Son of Man's sake." Yeah, and ultimately we know how we're going to be demonized. Obviously we know Esau's preparing his AI. I mean, his AI is already ready at this point. And, basically what the consumers can do with AI, you can completely make a new video, or you can completely generate a video using anybody's face, and it'll be spot on. You can basically make that person within that video do anything you want. So if that's available for the consumer, imagine what they have. Ultimately, what the ones at the top. Imagine what Esau has behind closed doors. Again, because these AI models that we have right now are what they have released onto the public. And I'm not sure if brothers have already seen the video, but basically you had this one Jake, or basically this one Jake who made this video, basically using AI for the apostles, and he basically did some other Israelite teachers as well, within that video. But the point is, he was able to generate a video using the apostles, or basically in a picture of the apostles. Then within the video, basically they're eating some bread and drinking some wine, going into basically Yahushua is saying to eat of his flesh and to drink of his blood. Of course, it's spiritual, but hey, it goes to show, they were able to generate that whole entire video just using AI. So again, we understand how Esau's preparing his AI to demonize the prophets. So it says Luke chapter 6 and 22, blessed are ye when men shall hate you, and when they shall separate you from their company, and shall reproach you, and cast out your name as evil for the Son of Man's sake. Yeah, so just like how they demonized Yahushua, they called Yahushua evil. Well, as the scriptures say, the servant isn't greater than his master. The same thing is going to happen unto us. So it says, Luke chapter 6 and 23, rejoice ye in that day and leap for joy, for behold, your reward is great in heaven. Yeah, so we know that ultimately we are a part of that. Hey, boy, if that happens unto us and our names are cast out as evil for the Son of Man's sake, then, hey, we know ultimately what? It says, yeah, rejoice ye in that day and leap for joy, for behold, your reward is great in heaven. Yeah, so we know that our reward is great in heaven. Of course, well, with enduring unto the end, we understand how, of course, we will be a part of the book of life. So for being evil spoken of, and ultimately going through what's written of the prophets to go through, and the elect, and ultimately it says, well, rejoice ye in that day and leap for joy. Yeah, so ultimately we rejoice in that. It says, for behold, your reward is great in heaven. Exactly. So our reward is great in heaven. For in the like manner did their fathers unto their prophets. Exactly. So just like in times past, what they did unto their prophets, they demonized them. Well, the same thing's going to happen now. As scriptures say, there's nothing new under the sun. So it says, Luke chapter 6 and 24. It says, but woe unto you that are rich, for ye have received your consolation. Yeah, and ultimately the end goal is not to get rich in the society. As the scriptures say, yeah, we use the world, we don't abuse it. Obviously, we understand money is a defense. But ultimately the end goal is not to become, wealthy and rich. And you see some of these Israelite leaders, that's really the whole goal, filthy lucre. The whole goal is to sell out and to obtain filthy lucre, to do anything to obtain a bag. So what their whole goal isn't to serve Yahweh B'Shem Yashai and, to gain life unto eternal, but the whole goal is to take the bag and get everything on this side. As scriptures say, basically paraphrasing, what is a man that he should basically paraphrasing, give up his, or not to butcher it, but basically going to so this is Matthew 16 and 26. For what is a man profited if he gain a whole world and lose his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? Yeah, so ultimately you have, some of these Israelite leaders out here, some of these Israelite teachers out here, they're willing to give up their soul, which, represents them giving up, their virtues, their integrity. Ultimately, what they've been commanded by Yahweh B'Shem Yashai to do. They're willing to give that up to gain the world, to gain crumbs. Because, hey, ultimately, what Esau's giving out here is crumbs. So read again, Matthew chapter 16 and 26. For what is a man profited if he gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his own soul? For the Son of Man shall come in the glory of his Father with his angels. And then he shall reward every man according to his works. Yeah, and that's for a letter. That's Yahushua speaking. So, hey, exactly. And ultimately, we want to be found on the good side of Yahweh B'Shem Yashai. We don't want to be found on the bad side of the Lord. And as the scriptures say, the judgment is going to start with the house of the Lord. Basically going into the ones who know about the truth. The ones, of course, within this thing, as we say, this Israelite thing, is going to start with the house of the Most High. So it says, Luke chapter 6 and 25, woe unto you that are full, for you shall hunger. Woe unto you that laugh now, for you shall mourn and weep. It says, woe unto you when all men shall speak well of you, for so did their fathers to the false prophets. Exactly. So woe unto you that laugh now. Yeah, woe unto you that are full, for you shall hunger. Yeah, exactly. So, again, ultimately, we understand how this isn't our rest. So, if you treat this place as if it's your rest, what's going to happen? Let's go and get Micah chapter 2 and 10. This is Micah chapter 2 and 10. It says, arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest. Because it is polluted, it shall destroy you, even with a sword destruction. Exactly. So arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest. So we're not supposed to be treating this place as if it's our rest. It says arise ye and depart. Doesn't mean, literally get up and leave Babylon Great, leave America and go to another country. Ultimately it means, because again, anywhere you go, you're going to go through the same thing. We're all, that doesn't matter wherever you go. We're, of course, suffering oppression. Again, what ultimately our people are oppressed on all sides. So, it doesn't matter where you go to, what nation you go to. Ultimately, you're still going to suffer that until Yahushua comes back. So what? It says arise ye and depart. So of course we know this is spiritually and mentally. So spiritually we have arose and departed from this place spiritually and mentally. It says, for this is not your rest, because it is polluted, it shall destroy you even with a sword destruction. Yeah, so if you treat this place as if it's your rest, you're going to become polluted with it. It says, and it shall destroy you even with a sword destruction. Yeah, so we shouldn't be looking to be full, as the scriptures say right here. It says, again, Luke chapter 6 and 25, woe unto you that are full. Yeah, meaning comfortable, you're relaxed. Yeah, treating this place as if it's your rest. Again, we're not here to be as if this is our kingdom. Ultimately, this isn't our kingdom. This isn't our rest. Ultimately, we understand we have a duty, which is to serve Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai and to do His will. Of course, and with that, there's going to be a lot of uncomfortable things that, of course, we're going to have to suffer. As, of course, we suffer right now. It says, woe unto you that are full, for ye shall hunger. Woe unto you that laugh now, for ye shall mourn and weep. Woe unto you when all men shall speak well of you, for so did their fathers to the false prophets. Exactly. So we don't want to be, so as the other apostles say, and what the elders on down, ultimately, if we're, as the saying goes, great millstone is likened on to the most hated camp, then that's good. Because ultimately this scripture right here is being fulfilled. It says Luke chapter 6 and 26. Woe unto you when all men shall speak well of you, for so did their fathers to the false prophets. Exactly. So that's good, right? It's fulfilling a prophecy right there. GMS, being the most hated Israelite camp. Again, what? We take that with a badge of honor, because what? They hated Yahushua too. And what they hated the prophets, the true prophets. But again, it says Luke 6 and 26, woe unto you when all men shall speak well of you, for so did their fathers to their false prophets. Yeah. So, you see these other, ultimately, we see these other Israelite leaders. They're being well spoken of. You got IYC, you got basically these other camps who are catering, towards more, ultimately a lot more towards the world, instead of being 100% down for Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. Because again, with that, if you're down for Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai 100%, there's going to be people who automatically become offended. And obviously, your congregation is going to be much smaller, but that's okay, because the scriptures say how many ultimately few are chosen, basically paraphrasing. So, really, this truth is an exclusive thing. It's not meant to be, or really it's not pandered, or it's not catered onto everybody. It's only meant for the elect. This truth is exclusive, and it's only meant for the elect of the nation of Israel. So it's designed for us, and I say us because, of course, we're part of that hopeful elect. We're part of that hopeful remnant that Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai will save. It says Luke chapter 6 and 27, But I say unto you, which hear, love your enemies, do good to them which hate you. Exactly. So, hey, we understand again, because again, this is all prophecy. At the end of the day, we're not, furious at these guys. Hey, ultimately, we understand that they're this doing their lot at the end of the day. It says Luke chapter 6 and 28, bless them that curse you, and pray for them which despitefully use you. Luke chapter 6 and 29, and unto him which smiteth thee on one cheek offer also the other. And him that taketh away thy cloak forbid not to take away thy coat also. It says, give to every man that asketh of thee, and of him that taketh away thy goods ask them not again. Yeah, again, and so ultimately, are we in that furious, spirit at these guys at the end of the day? As if we want to, hey, no. At the end of the day, we understand again it's all prophecy, and what ultimately Yahweh Shem Yahshua is controlling everything. Of course, throughout the Yahweh Shem Yahshua that we're of course on the good side, and of course we're doing His will. That says Luke chapter 6 and 31. Of course, Yahweh Tazah, of course, we're given mercy, and of course, we endure unto the end, as the scriptures say. Because ultimately, that's our hope. That, of course, we continue to do the will of Yahweh Hashem Yahshai. So it says Luke chapter 6 and 31. It says, and as ye would that men should do to you, do ye also to them. Yeah, and it goes on, but I believe it's a point. But yeah, it's more, but I believe you can leave right there. But yeah, the point is that this isn't our rest. We understand again. Things are kicking off right now. Of course, we understand how we are at the end of the world, as the scriptures say. We're at the very end where Esau's about to make his move. Of course, you have Nero 47 in office. And again, things are shaken up. And ultimately, we're in that time, again, where things where all hell's about to break loose very, very soon. And as we're speaking, it's a lot of things happening. So ultimately, our hope, what we're waiting for is, of course, for these things to pass as quickly as possible. Because again, in order for Yahushua to make his return, these things have to, of course, pass. So what, as scriptures say, Lord's going to shorten the days for the elect's sake. So we, of course, pray that ultimately, Lord already promised it. But we're praying that these days are shortened, even more. So that of course, we're out of here even quicker. And then, with that, of course, Yahushua makes his return. So ultimately, we're waiting for Esau to come down. Of course, we're waiting for Esau to mend that mark, and ultimately with that, World War III following very, very soon after that. And of course, with World War III happening, the nuclear war popping off, these other nations shooting their missiles upon Babylon the Great, with Yahushua making his return right then and there to deliver the elect of the nation of Israel. And of course, to completely destroy and take down these other nations and set up his people, the nation of Israel, over all other nations, of course, and to put all other nations in subjection under the Israelites, in all nations being our slaves, as the scriptures say, and being our captives, being in captivity under us, being in slavery. As scriptures say, he that leadeth in captivity shall go into captivity. And as scriptures say, the Lord's going to give, for those who overcome, the Lord's going to give power, or give them power over the other nations, give them a rod of iron, representing, of course, the Greek word being rhabdos, meaning, of course, indicating the severest, most rigorous rule. So what we do unto them is going to be much greater compared to what we did unto us concerning how we're going to be ruling over them. And ultimately we're going to give them hardcore bondage and slavery, as scriptures say, or really that's where the scriptures are going into. Hardcore bondage and slavery. So yeah, I believe it's a point. Ultimately, as scriptures say, here's the patience and the faith of the saints. So this is what we're waiting for. We're waiting for all these things to come to pass, and for Yahweh to make his return and to establish his kingdom. And with that, of course, all these things need to happen. And what Yahweh Shemir will hit the spirit upon his elect to endure. And of course, Yahweh Tazah, that we are part of that. And we're counted worthy to, of course, to escape these things. As the scriptures say, being counted blameless. So those are you blessed edified, Yahweh Bashmi Shah, Bashmakakorash Pakatham, Shalom.